All right, so welcome everyone to this webinar. So you might have heard that the Dacxi coin is planned to list on Uniswap in August. So today we'll explore the rationale behind the listing and what this development could mean for the broader Dacxi ecosystem. So hopefully in this session, we'll provide some additional context around the announcement and the listing process. And joining us is Ed Luckbrook. He's the founder of the Wealth 99 platform. So welcome, Ed, and I hand over to you.
Thanks so much, Dee. It's great. Hi, everyone. Thank you for coming on the webinar. The point of this, obviously, is to talk about the Dacxi listing. What we've done is, because there's been a number of developments in regarding to this coin, we're going to have these webinars, and be able to share the information with a lot of people. We get a lot of inquiries about it. There are thousands of people own this coin, and we just want people to understand, because at times like this, it's a pretty important development. And I've got a few slides I want to share with you. So I hope you can all see that perfectly well. Can we see that? Okay. Look,
Yes.
That's fantastic. Okay, this is look, we do updates into assets. Dacxi coin is a special one. Lots of people own it. I founded it, so I know an enormous amount of what's happening. But it is education. Our goal is just to provide the information that you need to make the sort of decisions. The major news is that the Dacxi coin will list on the Uniswap Dex. Now, Dex being a decentralized exchange, on the 20th of August. And so what I want to cover is what's happening with the Dacxi chain. I'm going to talk about a concept called a medium cap coin, and why Dacxi can be a medium cap coin. And then I'll go through some details around the listing so you fully understand it. And I do appreciate that some people know about the coin, some people don't know about the coin, some people know a lot about crypto, some people know nothing about crypto, and everyone's just interested in what's happening. So when we think about the coin, it's what's called a native cryptocurrency to the Dacxi blockchain of the Dacxi ecosystem. And all that means is that within the Dacxi ecosystem, which operates within the specific world of global investment crowdfunding, okay, that world needs a blockchain to operate, and the blockchain needs its own cryptocurrency, okay? It's hopefully that's not confusing, because it's essentially a blockchain is simply a new form of database, and it allows you to do things, especially about transferring the ownership of an asset from one place to another. So in this environment, what we're talking about is the transfer of the ownership of maybe shares, or maybe it's a part of property, or it's a crowdfunded loan agreement, and the swap of that with a payment traditionally in a cryptocurrency. And so it is literally, this idea of blockchain is revolutionizing the world. You don't really see it, you won't really see it. You'll just be able to send money instantly around the world 24/7. Okay, or be able to trade NASDAQ shares 24/7. Behind the scenes is this technology, which, if you know anything about Wealth 99, that's been our passion for many years. And so, look, Dacxi Chain as a company is involved with the infrastructure of creating a global crowdfunding world using blockchain infrastructure, but also now AI. And the way the coin is used is someone's got to pay when the blockchain's used, so it's used for fees. And also the way a blockchain works is that it has what's called, to validate every transaction, it has these things called nodes, and people need to put up money, which is called staking. Okay. Now that usage is the same as the famous blockchain protocols like Ethereum, Solana, Ripple. Okay. So it's just basically the same use cases. Now that coin obviously wants to find liquidity, i.e. buying and selling and turnover. It's currently on a tier 2 exchange called P2B. And now, because of what's happening in the ecosystem, the time finally, for a lot of you, it'll be finally, the time is right to take it up to much larger markets, starting with Uniswap, which is the world's largest decentralized exchange. Now, it's important to get excited about Dacxi. You really need to understand what the Dacxi chain is doing in the investment crowdfunding market. Now, crowdfunding is basically opportunities for the crowd, for the average people, sort of opportunities they wouldn't normally have. There are basically 3 areas. One is debt, so you're sharing in loans, or it's property, or it's equity. Traditionally, we've talked about the equity crowdfunding world, but because of what's happened in this new technology, actually, it's allowed us to expand into the other 2 areas, which you can see is sort of 10 times, 9 times greater increase in potential market. Okay, and you got to remember that when you're thinking about the potential turnover or value of the coin. Now, crowdfunding is actually a very young industry. I know a lot of people talk about it, but actually investment crowdfunding is very loud and very young, and it's needed very specific regulations because we're talking securities. And so the UK is only 2014, USA is 16. There was a lot of people, if someone wants to fact check me, they'll say, hey, it started in 2012. But actually the regulation crowdfunding, what's it called, Reg CF, only happened in 2016. Australia 2018, European Union 2020. So it's not very old at all. And what we've just experienced in the crowdfunding world is what we call crowdfunding 1.0, pioneering it. There were problems with being able to build the confidence of investors. The regulations weren't great to expand the industry. And so the sort of costs of running the business were a little bit too high. And so now with all the changes, especially because of blockchain and AI, there's a new era expected within the crowdfunding industry, which solves those problems and essentially unleashes this potential, okay? Because this industry should be enormous. It's just being restricted. So the whole Dacxi project is designed to help this unleashing of the potential. So Dacxi, as a concept, initially, after we saw the first tokenization concept, which is I won't go into it, but it's basically how a share is transferred between platforms. The original idea was to build a network of Dacxi platforms, but after a few years, it was very clear that would have issues as far as regulations, as far as just the way the business operates. And so it became clear that the smartest strategy for the company was actually to just focus on the infrastructure, to not actually own the crowdfunding platforms, but just the infrastructure in the platform and between the platforms to allow them to work together, which would allow a company seeking to raise money to find investors, for them to be able to find them anywhere in the world. And if you're an investor, for you to find opportunities anywhere in the world. Make sense? Classic sort of technology play. And to do that, there is basically, we build what's called a tech stack. And you've got these 3 different layers. And what was important when we look at how we build this global network to do crowdfunding, that you do it in stages. And the first stage is to focus on what's called the application layer, which is not blockchain. It's actually just how platforms share the information of a deal. The next stage is, okay, how is the actual deal done? Shares and money. And then once that's solved, obviously, then you can have the expansion in a region and then eventually all around the world. And so that was the strategy. We've actually talked about it for the last 3 years. And the key thing that I want you to understand is that running your own blockchain is an expensive, complex thing, and it's not needed until those stages, that third and fourth stage, because then what you do is you have scale. In other words, lots of investors, lots of deals, lots of transactions, which is what the blockchain operates under. So I just want to cover that again. The ultimate is to get this to this global network. Okay, all of the technology, all of the platforms and deals and investors are there. They just need to be linked together. But to do that, it's not a very simple process. It required these 4 stages. And so Dacxi initially focused obviously on the first stage, okay, application stage. We've talked a lot about that over the last couple of years. The first version was done 23-24. The first deal was shared in the European Union in 24-25, and that got the company to a stage where it says, okay, 8 platforms in the European Union and a few in the States, but the focus was, they said, okay, let's really network these things together and start this process to really perfect the application layer. Now, in doing that, by the start of this year, it became very clear that the platforms themselves weren't ready to share deals. And the reason is that within a platform, you've got to make sure that the data that you have, transaction data, that's obviously the absolute heart of the business, was not structured in a way to allow not only for them to be ever share deals, but for them to operate efficiently, and this was and compliantly, because there's lots of regulations here. Anything in financial services has lots of regulations. Okay, it's a crazy amount of regulations, and so if it wasn't done properly, there was real risks. There was major costs here. It was really slowing up what's doing. And the idea of then being able to share deals across lots of platforms at scale, okay, so not just a couple of deals, but to do it across lots of platforms, with thousands of deals and, millions of transactions, it just wouldn't have been good enough. And then out of nowhere also with AI, the number one issue with AI today, when it comes to big regulated industries like finance and healthcare, is that if you don't get this compliance layer, if you don't get that right with the data, it doesn't work. And that's a major issue. And so we found this issue, and then when talking to platforms, we realized that this was the thing we had to focus on. And the company is launched what's called Dacxi Verify, working with platforms, and the idea is to use AI, primarily to use AI to be able to govern the whole process. Okay, then you've got other aspects of the whole solution. I won't go into it, but the idea there is to add a new stage where, so basically, remember I talked about the network. You can't do the network until you get the platform sorted. Okay, now it's very easy to look at that and go, oh, everything's being delayed. In reality, because the platform's data will be trusted, hashed, secured and evidence-packed, it actually gives the whole system, the whole industry, the confidence and trust to be able to share deals faster. It actually accelerates the potential growth from stage 1 to stage 5. Now, if you're looking at the coin, that's vital, because not only do you want it to happen as fast as possible, but you also want it to be as large as possible, because that's the key to any blockchain is to have these sort of numbers of transactions. Now, that's Dacxi chain, and the blockchain is just part of the solution. Obviously, a major part. Now, the other thing you've got to understand is when you're looking at a cryptocurrency, if you just say, hey, look, what's the potential of this thing? You've got to understand that the crypto industry has evolved. It's from its pioneering days, it's now entered the mainstream. It means that financial institutions are really dominating everything about the industry, which is fantastic. Okay. It's meant that regulations have come in, but what it's also done is, if you know anything about crypto, there are literally thousands of these cryptocurrencies all trying to fight for attention, for liquidity, for trading. Well, it's not surprising to understand that this new mainstream stage is going to dramatically consolidate the number of coins that the big boys and therefore the wider market are going to be interested in. So they're called, it's ranked on capitalization, how much cryptocurrency is required, okay? And what's the value? So obviously Bitcoin has over $1 trillion worth of value, okay? And that's important because it's a reflection of the confidence that the market has in that asset, just like, you know, people have confidence in Microsoft shares because it's such a large organization. Lots of people own the shares, lots of people have confidence in the business. But when it comes to a currency, it's all down to demand. How much potential demand is there for this currency? And obviously, as the market consolidates, there'll be a focus only on a few of them. So at the top, there's what I call the big six, all right? And you'll know who they are. Wealth 99 offers them in the Blue Chip and Blue Ocean bundles. They're the ones that are really proven. In fact, number 6 is twice the size of what would be number 7. And the reason is these 6 have really proven themselves. So that's large cap. Now, underneath that are a number of coins called medium cap coins. So these are ones that are still considered credible. They're ones that global exchanges are going to offer. And we're going to talk about that in a second. So I've highlighted it. So you understand that that's the one we're going to focus on, because Dacxi is currently what's called a small capitalization or small cap coin. They're often called moon coins because they're the ones with the sort of potential to go from, to grow by 100 or 1,000 times in value. And crypto is famous for these coins where people have owned them and made a fortune. All right. And so the obvious move for a small cap coin is to become a medium cap coin. Okay. So I want you to understand that process, because that's the sort of understanding that'll give you confidence about what's happening. The last is the collectibles and NFTs, but let's not worry about that. Okay, let's talk medium cap coins. All right. So what's going to be required? And there's going to be a shakeout here. Just because something is sort of number 20th coin today, it does not mean it needs to stay. All right. I know coins that were number 5 that are now number 200. Okay. For a coin to really stay as a medium cap coin, they've got to have underneath their coin, which creates the demand, they've got to have a credible blockchain ecosystem. Okay. And because of that, also, they're going to need a minimum of $1 billion worth of crypto capitalization. So what that means is that the ecosystem has to be large enough to justify at least $1 billion worth of coins when we look at the fees and how much is staked. All right. At the moment, staking probably averages about 50% of the value of a coin, of these big coins. But the critical thing also is that they're used globally, because if they're not used globally, someone could probably just use it as a stable coin. And so to me, these are the 3 things that you need to understand. Is it credible? Does it justify $1 billion, or some of them are as high as $15 billion? And it doesn't have global use. Okay. Now, the sort of coins that sit in there, they're ones like blockchain infrastructure coins. So that what they are is so Chainlink. We offer Chainlink on the Blue Ocean bundle, and Chainlink is by far the leading technology that moves data into a blockchain. Okay, it's the 800-pound gorilla. I don't know, 60-70% of all blockchains use Chainlink. Okay, so that's a classic example. It is never going to be as worth as much as Ethereum. Got it? It's not even going to come close. So it's not a large cap coin. It's a medium cap coin. Okay, great to own. Okay, it's a good one. Then there are what are called specific application coins. Again, highlighted because I'm about to talk to them. Then you have specialized exchanges. There are ones like Canton and Hyper, which is very specialized exchanges that you have their own cryptos. Then you've got other general blockchain coins that like Sui and stuff that are trying to be in those big boys. It's a hard job. That's what they're trying to do. Now, any other coin, I don't care what it is, there are currently question marks over it. It may be a coin for an exchange or a community like Tron. All of those coins, there are question marks whether they'll even make it, even the privacy coins. So what you need to understand, this slide is super important, guys, really, really important, is understand that this will be like the stock market has medium capitalization shares, these are medium capitalization cryptocurrencies, widely traded, supported, credible. So, as I said, the other thing I wanted you to understand is that when it comes to these what are called altcoins, there are basically two types. There's one which is very general, okay, and Ethereum and Solana are famous ones, okay, and they're basically a blockchain protocol. So they're just really a blockchain, okay, and everyone competes for them to get the projects. There's lots of competition. It's a very, very mature market. It would be really hard to join the ranks of Solana and Ethereum today, okay? Now, there's another group that people don't really talk about, okay, because it's not a major section, but there's a very credible area, and that's called specific application. And what all that means is that you're focused on one specific industry. So a company called Immutable in Australia is focused on gaming. Solana is only focused on high-level finance. Dacxi is only focused on the crowdfunding industry. And what happens there is a company seeks to solve a major problem in that industry and therefore has its own blockchain to do it. And the size of that opportunity is such that it can justify its own blockchain. Got it? It's so big that it can justify its own blockchain. Otherwise, it would be too expensive to run one. Okay? And so once that company has that domination, it doesn't have the competitor issues that the other ones have. And this area is just starting to emerge. And so when we think of that, about the Dacxi coin, we realize that the crowdfunding industry is a very specific ecosystem. It has specialized regulations, okay? There are specialized platforms, and they have very high security because they're dealing with the public and they're dealing with shares and money, but it's very specialized, and it also requires very specialized infrastructure. And that's why when you look at the crowdfunding industry, it can justify a Dacxi solution with a Dacxi blockchain and a Dacxi coin, because the scale of it, when this thing is unleashed, should be literally $1 trillion industry. And in just assets are concerned, it's sort of, it can grow by 50 to 100 times growth. And people think of, how can a company or industry grow by 50 times? Hey, Elon Musk just said that SpaceX can grow by 50 times in the next 4 years. So it's not an unusual concept in a brand new area. And what that means is that when the business the development hits stage 4, stage 5, it's global. There's global equity, loan, crowdfunding, regulations are all sorted, then you have this opportunity for literally billions of dollars, hundreds of billions of dollars of transactions each year, which can produce hundreds of millions of dollars worth of blockchain fees. So it'll need, $1 billion or more of the cryptocurrency. Now, I'm not going to talk about pricing of the cryptocurrency or that sort of stuff, but you just, divide $1 billion by 10 billion, and you can work out what the price could be. Okay. The key thing also is, because you're talking about a global solution, it means that you've got to have these validator and writing nodes around the world, which are required to be staked. Okay. So it also meets that requirement. Is it a credible industry? Hell yeah. Is the company the leader in the space? Hell yeah. Is the potential requirement of cryptocurrency at least $1 billion? It's at least $1 billion. It's in the range of billions. And because of the confidence around the Dacxi Verify, the response of platforms to that discussion, and a really clear development cycle over the future, that's why finally the company has decided to start the listing process, which starts with Uniswap. Now, Uniswap, if you don't know what a decentralized exchange is, I won't go into it. But the reality is Uniswap's the pioneer. It's the largest decentralized exchange in the world. It has dramatically more active traders and investors and speculators than P2B. All right, it does. And the idea here is just to build liquidity, to have new owners, to have people buying and selling, so the turnover is higher, which drives the price and drives the excitement around the coin. And so what's happening is the announcement is now, because the decision is now, and there's a process, from announcement to when it's listed. Before the listing, for a couple of weeks, there's making awareness in the Uniswap world. Then the listing's on the 20th of August. And then the key thing is after that, there's a period of marketing in the Uniswap world to get them excited and aware of what is happening. And this delay that we've got at the moment is an opportunity for everyone, but it's also because the sort of North American market has the summer period, and so the idea is you list the coin going into the autumn period, which is when the market is a lot more active. Okay, if you're with Wealth 99, there's nothing to do. Everything is going to be linked through the platform to these exchanges to ensure that you can buy and sell and do whatever you want with the Dacxi. And then once that listing has the confidence on Uniswap, then the plan is to then expand the number of listings ultimately to the sort of highest level, tier ones they're called. So look, in summary, I hope you understand Dacxi is very focused on the specific area of crowdfunding infrastructure. The response rate is fantastic. As far as creating a global ecosystem, Dacxi works very closely with Gecko, which has nearly 100 members, the largest crowdfunding platforms in the world, regulators. They all want it to happen. So this first stage is to focus on AI with a little bit of blockchain. But that's the key really to drive, as I said, those further stages. And when you look at the potential of that space where Dacxi is positioned, I hope you're clear about why the coin can become a medium cap coin. The good thing about it is that you can trade. The price can move very, very quickly, because all the market has to do is to think, okay, I think it's going to become a medium cap coin, $1 billion coin. Thank you very much. And the market rocks and rolls. It's very traditional in the crypto industry. The strategy is simply, let's get listed on Uniswap and unleash the full potential of this coin. So, look, I hope you enjoyed that. I hope the information is good. If you weren't quite clear about it, ask questions, rewatch this video, and look, thank you very much.
Thanks, Ed. I think that's some exciting news. So obviously the Uniswap listing in August is a significant milestone for the Dacxi coin, as it opens the Dacxi coin to global liquidity that wasn't possible before. So that's fantastic. And yeah, Ed has walked us all through the medium cap concept. And I think most of you can see how the Dacxi coin fits into that conversation. And the question that I'd be asking myself right now, and I suspect many of you are asking right now as well, is that either is whether my position, my current position, reflects what I actually believe about where this is heading. So thank you very much for being here, and share this video with anyone you think should be part of this conversation.